Baker Mayfield, guys, at his best when he is the underdog?
He was magnificent last night. Good for Baker. Good for Baker. Good for Jared Goff. Good weekend for written-off quarterbacks, Matthew.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, right? It was redemption road. I mean, think about this. Like, you know, no one ever believed in Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like, and those two guys came through as well. People doubted Mason Rudolph on the road, and he showed everyone that they were right. But no, seriously, no. Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, unbelievable stories. You also, by the way, you have the number one seed in the NFC is Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes.
And you have the number one seed in the AFC is pretty good for a running back. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, like, you know, a guy that was, we like our guys a little bit more quarterbacky.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's an unbelievable kind of playoff field here when you think about it.
Yep.
It's kind of a redemption road, if you will.
Do you know, Matthew, that Football Night in America ended 2 days ago? What's going on with your outfit?
I have to, sometimes I like to class up the joint.
Right.
Hey, I'm doing this. Listen, I'm, you know what? I want to honor Jason Kelsey's career.
There we go.
I'm doing this. He's Jason Kelsey. Of course, the news broke. Last night he told everyone that he was retiring.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, but just want to point out, Jason Kelsey drinks for free. An unbelievable career for Jason Kelsey. We're all Jason Kelsey fans here at the happy hour. You drink for free, Mr. Kelsey. No, to be honest with you, the truth of the matter is that NBC, the national broadcasting company, has asked me to record something and look a little bit nicer than I do on this thing. So after the show, just because of timing, I have to wear this. And I'm not allowed to say on air what it is,
Right.
but it'll be something that'll be on actual network television.
Yes, and the Roll Tide hoodie wasn't going to suffice.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly
European tee.
which is what I.
That's what I was pushing for.
Yeah, no, I walked into work today in a Roll Tide hoodie. So. Yeah. Anyway, so this is me working smarter, not harder.
There you go.
I'm glassing up the joint. This is a little Football Night in America. And by the way, we do know also now what the matchup will be. It will be Buccaneers at Lions on Sunday, first game, and yours truly, along with everyone else on Football Night in America, will be there in Detroit for the pregame at 2 p.m. Eastern, leading up to kickoff at 3 p.m. on NBC Sports and Peacock. I'm a company man.
The battle of former number one picks now playing for new franchises. You don't get that level of redemption very often, and we saw that really in full circle last night, Jay, with Baker Mayfield, as we led off with 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Bucs offense just completely stomped out this Eagles defense, where we've seen this coming the way the season ended for Philadelphia. But even this was a surprise. I mean, to be fair, the Bucs were underdogs in this game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to James Bradbury. That was the most glaring thing to me on the Eagles defense, his inability to tackle. You can see it there on your screen. And talked yesterday about how just wanted to see the first 2 or 3 plays of Baker Mayfield and what he'd look like physically. And if he did look right, then the 231.5 passing prop was going to be way too low. He looked fine. He looked fantastic. He was moving with just such zip, making quick decisions. I know he got sacked a few times, but I'm not sure they were really on him. And I mean, he was fantastic, and that is the guy that he was in the second half of the season.
That was a great call on the 231. I wish I had remembered to bet that. I didn't. I was sitting at home with my kids and everything like that, and I forgot to. I forgot to bet that, but he cashes that easily as well. Well over as well. Over 300 yards, throws 3 touchdowns as well. You saw that. He got some help by the poor tackling, but give credit where credit is due, because so much of the conversation about this game will be about the failure of the Philadelphia Eagles, not only in this game but over the second half of the year. But Baker Mayfield played well. Yeah. The entire team, honestly, and not only did Baker Mayfield play well, he should have played quote unquote a lot better. Mike Evans had a couple of brutal drops. Cade Otton had a couple of drops as well. Honestly, players making normal plays that they would normally make, Mike Evans being normal Mike Evans, he's over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. I felt like he wasn't getting a ton of help. I do feel like the interior of the line of the Buccaneers didn't hold up nearly as well. He was under pressure a decent amount. So I thought Baker had a great game. And for a guy that had been written off and is on his, 4th team in, 18 months or whatever it is, good for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, good for him. Great comeback season for him. I mean, he finished statistically as about the 10th best quarterback in football, which is incredible for a guy who came into the season and us not wondering if he was going to beat out Kyle Trask for the starting job. Congratulations as well to a guy that we never talk about, Dave Canales.
Thank you.
Dave Canales,
right.
I don't know if it's because his name sounds like a character on like season 4 of The Shield,
Right.
with like Shane Vendrell and Vic Mackey and Dave Canales. But I mean, this offense wasn't supposed to be good. The offensive line was supposed to be bad. Baker Mayfield wasn't supposed to be the answer. They fixed the offensive line. They have an explosive downfield passing offense, and they started to get a bit of the run game going as well. Like, it's a really solid offense at the moment.
Especially when you think about the fact that coming into the season, so they had Evans and Godwin and Evans.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have much, and they're like, can Rachaad White be a 3-down back? Like, we saw some moments of it last year, but like, they'd had Leonard Fournette as well, and oh, by the way, they had Tom Brady under center. So like, you didn't know if Rachaad White could be a true workhorse running back. They didn't have much depth behind him. Could you get anything out of Trey Palmer or Cade Otton or some of these other complementary guys? So they didn't have a ton of depth on this team, and yet the Buccaneers managed to produce, for the most part, obviously a nice fantasy season and statistically, and they were able to move the ball. This defense, which is much maligned, stepped up as well. I mean, give credit on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a huge Todd Bowles guy, but give credit where credit is due. The defense played well. Winfield is an absolute stud. Like, what a find for them.
The fact he was not the All-Pro,
It's unbelievable.
the Pro Bowl safety over Budda Baker is one of the craziest storylines of the NFL season.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like having Jared Goff MVP over Lamar Jackson. No shade to Jared Goff, just the first name that popped into my mind. But, I mean, it's insane. And he and Kyle Hamilton have been the two best safeties in football this season. And the reality is with the Bucs is that they lost Tom Brady and they got better. Like, they had a better record. They've gone further in the playoffs, winning a playoff game. So it's a great story all around. And Todd Bowles, I think the knock on Todd Bowles, I think everyone's always thought that he's a good defensive game planner. He's a good defensive mind. It's just like, is this guy a head coach? Looks like he's a head coach. And the defensive game plan, Hurts has struggled with pressure and blitz all season. And they're like, all right, well, we're just going to blitz you every time until you find an answer. If the Eagles go in empty, it's just blitz. And Hurts had no answers all night.
54% of the time, the Buccaneers blitzed Jalen Hurts. That was the highest blitz rate by any team in the wild card round. They were actually blitzed the 4th highest rate this season, not including the playoffs. Philadelphia, right? Exactly. Teams knew like that's the way to do it, and they never adjusted. They never had a plan for it. And to me, and nothing came out. And they're not an excuse team, but I'll say it just doesn't feel like Jalen Hurts looked like Jalen Hurts this entire season. It just looks like he's just gimping through and trying to tough it out. I don't think he was 100% healthy.
To me, the problem though, Connor, is that he did look like Jalen Hurts, but the Jalen Hurts of 2021. He looked exactly like that guy for most of the season. I'm not sure with the knee. Like, when he takes off, like, he seems to be moving fine. Like, he seems to be maneuvering normally. I'm not sure if it was a problem at one point in the season and he got slightly better. I think it's just the offense. He's just playing with no confidence. The offense without Steichen. I mean, he had guys open and he's just not throwing the ball. Like, the safety was so bizarre. Like, that just shouldn't happen. Like, they're not blitzing. He stares the pass rush in the face and then just takes the safety? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's trust, right? It feels like the trust was not there this year, where last year they were humming all the time with Steichen. It's like, we're going to come out, our first 15 scripted are going to be boom, 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 and then we're going to adjust. I feel like the Eagles never had that counterpunch all year on offense. It was just tush push in short yard situations, and we're going to see if we can make a great miracle play the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to them, I'll just say this, though. Goddard missed a decent amount of time, obviously. A.J. Brown wasn't there last night. Like, they've had some injuries on the offensive side of the ball as well. But, yeah, to your point, no Shane Steichen on the offense, no Jonathan Gannon on the defense as well. They also had some losses in the offseason here as well. And it seems insane to think about this. But there's now rumors that Nick Sirianni, a year after leading this team to the Super Bowl, and a guy that was top 5 in Coach of the Year odds in the middle of the year when they were 10-1, now might be looking for work in a week.
Yeah, it's insane. And think about this as well. It's not just the 10-1. Think about a quarter time of the San Francisco game where they are destroying the Niners. They should have been up like 14-0. Brock Purdy goes 3 and out both 2 times. At that point, it looks like the Eagles are your Super Bowl favorite. And now all of a sudden, they just got bounced with a 23 loss at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, it's insane. I can't remember an in-season fall from grace that happened so quickly and so violently as this Eagles season.
Well, let's listen to Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts on the state and future of the organization right after the game.
Obviously, we were in a big slide, and anytime that's the case, I always look at myself first, and I didn't do a good enough job. And obviously we lost 5 of the last 6 and lost today. And it's almost like you couldn't get out of the rut we couldn't get out the rut we're in, and that's all of us. We'll all have to look ourselves in the mirror and accept that, and just find answers, find solutions.
Are you concerned at all about your job status?
Like I just said like I just said over here, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me.
Do you want Nick back?
I didn't know he was going anywhere.
Well, there's obviously a lot of question about whether.
I didn't know that.
No, but you didn't know that.
Nah.
Where's your confidence level in him then to fix this team?
I have everybody. I have a ton of confidence in everyone in this building.
Jalen Hurts was the second person you heard from there after Nick Sirianni didn't seem too interested in the organization moving on. Really interested in the question.
Didn't know he was going anywhere.
Yeah. Could just say I started with the second part of the answer. I have full confidence.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's the final 7 games. After the Eagles started 10-1, the only loss in those first 11 was to the Zach Wilson-led Jets. Should have been a sign of things to come. Against the Niners, they lost 42-19. At Dallas, they lost by 20 points, 33-13. A close one to Seattle. They did beat the Giants in another close game, and then lost to the Cardinals, Giants, and then, of course, the Bucs in the wild card round. I mean, the thing is, when you look at the second half of that list there, Barry, it's not even scary opponents.
So it's a couple of different things here. First off, I'm not surprised. I said all week long, and I said it yesterday. I love the Bucs +3, and I think the Bucs actually win. I said that all because again of how they ended the season, and I feel like it's a little bit like the Cleveland Browns here, which is like we talked about the Browns going into Houston. We're saying they can't keep getting away with it, and it felt like the Browns over the second half of the year with all the interceptions and the fumbles and the turnovers by Joe Flacco, and that the defense had beaten up on some bad teams, that they were sort of doing it a little bit with smoke and mirrors. And we felt that way about Philadelphia. Even when they were 10-1, Jay, you and I and Connor, we would talk about this right here on the show, and we'd say, they're not a 10-1 team. If Gabe Davis doesn't run the wrong way, they lose that game, to the Bills.
MVS against
right. If MVS makes a catch, against the Chiefs, big F there. But the fact of the matter is,
he was wide open. The throw was great.
My point is that there were a couple of different times up until that San Francisco game where you're like, wow, they really, they're living right, because there are a couple of games that they easily could have lost, probably should have lost, and they didn't. So I never think they were as good as the 10-1 record indicated, but I think that hurt them as well. It's so interesting in the NFL in terms of perception, right? Because they probably weren't as good as 10-1, but they weren't as bad as losing 5 of the last 6.
That's the thing.
As well.
Because when they were 10-1, they were like an 8-3 team. But this team isn't close to an 8-3 team the way it's played down the stretch. And I know Hurts is getting a lot of criticism, and you saw the not confrontation, but the exchange he had with Dallas Goedert on the sideline where Hurts' body language never looks good. But at the same time, when Jake Elliott made the 59-yarder against Buffalo, his face doesn't move. That's just how he is on the sidelines. We take a look at Dallas Goedert and Hurts, not really getting into it because Jalen Hurts is just completely, there's just no reaction whatsoever. But that's just kind of what he's like on the sideline. And maybe that's a problem in itself, but just a complete disaster. It's incredible to think that, this team was, they were -400 to win the Super Bowl at halftime, when it looked like Mahomes' knee was done, his ankle was done. And to go from that, to get to 10-1 and now to fall apart. It's incredible.
Look, the only thing, and losing Kelsey, we'll talk about Kelsey here in a second as well. They weren't able to establish the run game. That was another problem. Credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since week 11, DeAndre Swift has under 15 carries in 6 of the final 8 games. They just didn't run the ball effectively. They never used him in the passing game, 3 or fewer receptions in 13 of the games he played this year. He ends with, under 70 total yards in a game where they were in negative game script the entire time. You would have thought Swift, one of their better players on offense, would have been more involved. But as much as you and Connor and myself want to sit here and criticize the Philadelphia Eagles, the fact of the matter is that Penn State Blake, our researcher here at the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, is a diehard fan of all things Philadelphia sports, hence Penn State. Blake, he went to Penn State, obviously. He loves his Phillies, his Flyers, his Eagles. Here he is. Here's Penn State, Blake.
Yep.
And we have decided to let the floor have you. The Eagles season is over, Penn State, Blake. The floor is yours. please, State of the Union
please.
for the Eagles. Your thoughts on the 2023 season of your beloved Birds.
So I'll go to what you said earlier about how they didn't feel like a 10-1 team. This kind of stems back to last season, too. Look at the quarterbacks that they played also. And then you go into the playoffs, play Daniel Jones and the Giants. They lose Brock Purdy. A lot of things were going the Eagles' way, so it kind of felt like that. And then you get the 2 new coordinators this year. It's not meshing. And then you have a lot of just inept play calling and inept playmaking from everybody. And it's really frustrating because as a diehard Birds fan, you just expect every week they're going to be the best team in the league. And then they just fall flat on their face.
What I don't get, Blade, the schedule last year was very easy, and I thought maybe there's a chance this team is just fraudulent, but they played so well in the Super Bowl. They played well enough to win that game and beat Mahomes, and Hurts was, outside of the bizarre kind of fumble 6 or whatever that was, he was magnificent in that game. So, what happened to that team?
I feel like this happens in the NFL a lot, and there's one-off games, and that's the beauty of it. It's like any given Sunday. Just felt like in that aspect, Hurts was just playing very well, but the defense couldn't get any stops in that second half. And that bled into this season. And then obviously you have the change with the Desai to Patricia. Who knows if even that was the right decision? Even in those games, the offense scored 13 and 19 points. So there was clearly an offensive issue, but you couldn't fire the OC because, frankly, this is Nick's offense.
Right.
So if you're going to fire the OC, you're kind of firing Nick in a sense, and maybe that's what they're going to do in the offseason.
One of the things you said on the pre-show call I thought was really interesting. It was because, yes, they went from Desai to Patricia, but talk about when they actually made that change.
Yeah.
Because that was around the San Francisco Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, it was after the Dallas game, and both teams, San Francisco and Dallas, were coming off 10-day rest advantage. So Eagles had a short week in both times, and again, I just think it might have been a panic mode for a team that was 10-1, 10-3. Yeah, things weren't going your way, but it wasn't just the defense. You had offensive struggles there. So just putting it on the defensive side, and then, maybe Patricia is taking what Desai put into the playbook this season. But for some reason, we went from a top 6 rush defense from, I think, week 1 to week 14. They were bottom 6 the rest of the season, those last few games with Patricia as DC. So there was just a lot of issues going on with the defense, and obviously the offense wasn't gelling with Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. So just really frustrating from an Eagles fan perspective.
Do you put any of this on Howie? I mean, I think Howie is one of the best general managers in football.
Without a doubt.
He's put together an unbelievable roster year after year after year, but they had some losses in the offseason.
They did, yeah. You lost T.J. Edwards to the Bears. Kazir White went to the Cardinals, I believe, with Gannon. And, I think draft philosophy, free agent philosophy is going to be a big self-reflection for Howie. I mean, it's clear that Eagles don't really like to draft early safeties or linebackers. But those were their weaknesses. I mean, you saw it last night with Kate Otten wide open in the middle of the field.
To me, when it became most glaring, and this is the analytical thing to do, is not value running backs or linebackers, but that San Francisco game where Purdy, just with the quick stuff, just put them in the blender, their linebackers. They just had no prayer whatsoever. They signed Shaq Leonard. He's active. He doesn't even play last night. They didn't have
the
any
linebackers
answer
they were
position.
putting in there, Moreau, Cunningham, Shaq, they were just bodies. I mean, it was just to fill the field. It felt like nobody was even out there.
It was one of the reasons why we always say death tax to start your tight ends against the Philadelphia Eagles. And Kate Otten easily cashes
down to the end.
His prop as well. We talked about that earlier in the week, last week, about that. The public was on that, and we were like, this time we actually sided with the public on that.
They're listening.
1,000% as well.
But it's over. That's how I see it. It's over. I don't know if Nick's going to get fired or not.
Do you want, as a fan of the team, do you want Nick back?
Fan base feel?
The fan base
Besides
obviously
popcorn.
feels like fire.
Speak for the entire fan base.
The fan base wants Nick gone. However, the coordinators absolutely need to be gone.
Right.
You can't have Patricia running this defense. He might honestly be a good DC with some good personnel. But there's a lot of self-reflection. I think Nick was trying to run an offense with a Jalen Hurts from last year, and he obviously wasn't this year, and it hurt them in the end. So if he's gone, there's a large pool of candidates out there. Maybe Ben Johnson is the next Philadelphia Eagles head coach.
Yeah. Didn't work for Brian Johnson. Let's bring Ben Johnson. Let's roll through the Johnsons.
Yep.
Belichick.
Yeah, or Belichick. We'll see.
There you go.
Belichick in Philly would be truly something.
I'm not ready for that.
Can you imagine Harbaugh in Philly?
I'm rooting for it. I root for
We'll
chaos.
see.
But you as just you personally as a fan, I'm giving you the power. Nick Sirianni returns next year or not?
No. He doesn't
Okay.
return.
Wow.
He doesn't return.
Team made
He's
Super Bowl,
spoken.
Super Bowl
Yeah.
last
Wow.
year. Short memories for some
Yeah,
Eagles fans.
Penn State Blake, so angry, so angry. Last question for you,
Yeah.
Penn State Blake.
Yeah,
You've been on way too long as it is. The last question for you. Eagles were 10-1 in the San Francisco game, and then Big Dom gets into a fight with the 49ers, gets thrown out of the game, and from that point forward, the only game you guys win is the Giants game where you barely beat them. You barely beat them. Is this all Big Dom's fault? Because if he doesn't get thrown out, maybe they continue the streak.
Yeah, I mean, Big Dom's been the glue that's kept everything together for the last 3 or 4 years. So
Maybe he can play linebacker instead of Nicholas
yeah, I
Morrow.
like that too. Yeah.
Or call plays.
Oh boy. Yeah, maybe.
Full power to Dom.
Big Dom. We love you, Big Dom.
There you go. Big Dom is back. Sirianni maybe not for Penn State Blake, but
Great stuff, Blake.
But
Thanks,
Big
Blake.
Dom,
Thank
good
you.
job. There you go.
Thank you,
Penn State
Well
Blake.
played, Blake. Go Birds.
Much like,
Go Birds.
much
Go
like
Birds.
the Eagles, he is too done on this show. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.